It's nearly time, isn't it, my American counterpart? The richest and most successful man in the world, true owner of the Suez Strait. Yes, my dear friend, though such a title has only been recently bestowed upon me. It was you who stood here before I did as the wealthiest man in history, true owner of the Malacca Strait. Indeed, but that is of little importance now. Our governments will soon be warring, just as we had planned. I can hardly wait. The profit we made from the Fourth World War was just the start. Think of the profit from weapon sales our industries will soon acquire. Yes, and this time we will prevail without challenge. The Mesopotamian Empire still has not attempted to resurface. The world order of our governments is absolute. We are facing the largest conflict in history, and both sides will be using our weapons. The profits will be marvelous, though we have to be careful to cover our tracks. The assembly is already suspicious. Have no worries, I've got that taken care of. This is goodbye for a while now, Fuzang. I hope to see you when the dust settles. Farewell, William Rothrock. I will soon notify my government of the existence of the NNHRB. Prepare yourself, and may this war be the last before the prophecy is fulfilled. Certainly, though other arrangements have already been made.
So today we're going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 80 of the series, and in the previous episode we saw a ton of events happening, such as a bunch of regional wars. We saw the creation of a new alliance down here in the Horn of Africa. We saw the Unitarians expand up here into Greenland, and most notably West Africa became a member of the Security Council. Today's episode of the series is going to be a very special one, so I do encourage you all to stick around and make sure you pay attention and watch the entire video, of course. But if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated as we're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers. Hello to all of you that showed up during the premiere. And let's go ahead and jump straight into this video. So we're going to be starting out over here in North America. Now we left off here previously, and what we had happening was, first of all, Greenland joined the Unitarians. But also this country here in central Canada was experiencing some political turmoil. As you can see, they are now in orange color, but that is now quickly shifting into a red color, signifying that this country is on the brinks of civil unrest / collapse. And here's what we have happening. It is now being reported that a majority of the people in this country want to join the Unitarians. Before, they just kind of wanted to remain as their own country, but some things have changed in the economic world. It is now definitely more beneficial for them to join the Unitarians than it is for them to remain as they are. Now the issue with that is that not everyone in this country is as accepting as the Unitarians as other countries are. Part of that stems from cultural and religious values that these people don't want to necessarily give up. They're a little bit less willing to give up what they have, and we're mostly seeing that up here in the northern and westernmost regions of the country. But as for down here, like in the Wisconsin area, people are a little bit more split. Some people want to join the Unitarians, some people want to break away and just have this small little country right here, and some people want to join America because America is one of the richest and wealthiest countries in the world. That will fix all of your economic issues. And the leader of this country has absolutely no idea what to do. He doesn't know who to listen to. Does he listen to the majority that wants to join the Unitarians? Does he listen to the portion of people that want to, remain as their own country? Or does he listen to the people that want to join America? I mean, it's just so many different options. And at the end of the day, he will make the decision to resign. And that is probably the worst decision he could have made, because now there is a vacuum of power. In this country, things are done a little bit differently. It's not like there's a vice president. I mean, there is a vice president, but he doesn't necessarily succeed the president. The way that this country does things is that the Senate will then nominate someone to become the next president, meaning that the party with the majority will automatically get to put their representative into power. But the issue is that all the party and all the elected officials have differing opinions on what the country should do, and therefore they cannot choose to nominate someone because they're all split. And what happens when your government can't do anything and people are unhappy? Well, you fall into civil war. Central Canada will now go from red to dark red, meaning that the civil war / revolution has indeed begun. But the first and most notable thing that we see happening here is that the northwestern provinces / territories will choose to break away. It first starts with this one all the way up here in the northwest, but we'll also quickly include this section of land down here, which consists of this province and this major city. The extremely unorganized military will make an attempt to push into the rebel territory, but due to lack of logistics and just in general not having any, well, generals, they're only able to take back one major city, and other advances in this region are quickly stalled. And no, it's not because these guys have a super strong army, it's because these guys are just, like I said, disorganized. Quickly though, this will escalate even further, as now the pro-Unitarian provinces and major cities will break away. This is the more populated areas of this country. As you can see, it consists of 4 major cities and the capital, but these guys are the ones that are in favor of joining the Unitarians. The guys over here in the center, they're the ones that want to remain as their own country, and then the red ones up here are the ones that want to break away and join Alaska because they don't want to join the Unitarians. They felt as if the government was going to choose to join the Unitarians, and they wanted no part in that, so they chose to go ahead and choose Alaska instead of the Unitarians. Bold move. Now there is still one little section of land down here, and this is Wisconsin/Michigan, and this is also where a ton of population in this country exists. The people here have very mixed opinions on what's happening. They feel really, horrible that their government collapsed and that they were just kind of left on their own. But they're also very wary of the Unitarians, very similar to the people over here near Alaska. They don't know if they want to join this new society where you have to give up yourself, give up your interests, your culture, your heritage, and join this new hyper-technologically advanced society that is aimed at stopping war and just having peace and unity. They don't know if they want to be a part of that because you kind of have to give up your individual freedoms to do such a thing. Not entirely, like it's not like a, authoritative state or anything. It is a democratic society. It's just that, you have to abide by the rules, and the rules say that you have to be equal and you have to be fair to everyone. In our world, that sounds nice, but in the capitalist world, that doesn't sound too great. So these people are going to be making a decision. They're going to attempt to join America. They'll break away from the central Canadian government, which at this point has been reduced to nothing. They'll declare their independence, but also declare that they are pursuing the unification with the United States. So as for this front back up north, that really isn't much of a front anymore. The military of the Central Canadians has just collapsed. Soldiers have decided that they're going to support one side or another. They're likely going to go back to their hometowns or cities and just wait for the end of the war, which at this point won't take much longer at all. The absence of government in central Canada has spelled defeat for this country, even as the borders are still changing. And now it is entirely up to the remaining provinces and counties of this country to make their decision, join the Alaskans or join the Unitarians. Now when the pro-Unitarians and pro-Alaskans meet, there isn't any violence between the two, even though they are, fighting for their respective side and the fate of their country. They recognize that there's no point in fighting each other because at the end of the day, both sides are getting what they want. So they'll go ahead and make an agreement. And that agreement looks something like this. They'll divide up all of central Canada, and then as for these guys down here in Wisconsin, they're allowed to just exist. They don't really need them or care about them. Basically, all 3 sides respect each other and recognize that they want to pursue their own path, and that central Canada was doomed to fall anyway. All 3 sides will also allow for all the provinces within this country to vote on their future. So if you want to join Alaska, you have to vote in favor of that. If you want to join the Unitarians, vote in favor of that, so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and see what this peace treaty / agreement looks like. So in part 1 of this treaty, we have this happening. 3 of the provinces over here in the west opt to join in on Alaska, while this major city down here also chooses to do the same. Alaska will pretty much double in size and now reach all the way over here to central Canada. And then in part 2 of this treaty, the rest of central Canada will be going over to the Unitarians. This will include a ton of these provinces over here, as well as a ton of major cities. And then we also cannot forget about all of the northern islands up here in Canada. And then now, finally, for the last part of this peace treaty, we see Wisconsin / the Upper Peninsula area of central Canada join in on the Americas. This was probably the most peaceful area of the fighting because, well, there was no fighting that happened here. They just simply declared their independence and then joined America. And when it's all said and done, these are the new borders of North America. So as you can see, the Unitarians are becoming a very, very big country. But also, this was a very, very peaceful war. Now, of course, it was still a war, and there's no peace in war when people are dying. But as far as the outcome and like how everyone's feeling after the war, everyone's relatively happy. Everyone got what they wanted, and a bunch of countries just got a lot bigger. But anyway, now moving away from North America, we're now heading over here to Russia because the warlord is once again making a move. He did take a little break in the last episode, but don't get that mistaken. He's not done just yet. There's yet another country here that he feels should be a part of the Russian Empire, and while he is barred from going into Europe, there's area of opportunity in previous Russian land, and more specifically down here in the Yellow Team. War is quickly declared, and the Yellow Team finds itself in a state of war once more. These guys did participate in World War IV and fought against the fascist powers as a communist power. However, since then, and since the conclusion of their communist government, things haven't been going so smoothly. Now, they have set up a successful democratic government, and that was functioning all right, but it was fairly fairly corrupt, and at the same time this country had little to no economic growth, which really put it behind a lot of its neighbors. But now Russian troops were flooding through this country, claiming to be liberators of the people, and in some instances people do view them as liberators. But at the end of the day, the Yellow Team will be completely occupied by Russia, and soon after in the peace treaty they will be fully annexed into the new Russian Empire. At this point, the warlord here has pretty much done it. I mean, this is a majority of Russia's old land. Now granted, they don't have Poland, which you're not going to get Poland. First of all, they are a major power, and second of all, they're in a military alliance with the Gold Team. And in terms of like rankings, Poland and the Gold Team are fairly similar in strength to the entirety of Russia, because at this point Russia has consolidated a lot of power. They have gotten a lot of their old population back, and thus have become very popular, or I should say populated. And when you have a lot of people living in your country, that automatically means more money, as well as more military personnel, and so on and so forth. So Russia has become a very strong country and a top 20 power at this point. Poland and Ukraine, though, together are similar in strength, so that's why they're not going into Europe, and they probably won't be pursuing any other land other than like maybe the Brown Team, because that's like the main area that still needs to be annexed to reform the old Russia. But who said they're trying to do the old Russia? Maybe they're trying to do their own new version of Russia. We'll have to see. Anyway, now coming down here to Africa, we have a military campaign happening, and interestingly enough, this is a military campaign that is being pursued and carried out by South Africa, a country that hasn't done anything since the end of the last World War. Now they are a Security Council member, and that means that anytime a Security Council member, goes to war and invades another country, a lot of the General Assembly countries in the AN are going to be super suspicious and, point fingers and so on and so forth. But South Africa has been a country that's been fairly fair as well as fairly quiet. So while there still is backlash for what they're about to do, it isn't as bad as what, America and China have been seeing. But interestingly enough, their campaign is taking place in two countries, and more specifically, taking place in this yellow country here, as well as this gray country up here. Now, what you'll notice about these two is that, first of all, they are a fascist and authoritarian country respectively. They're also not in any military alliances, and that's exactly why this war is happening, because South Africa wants to free the continent, as they're saying. Free the continent from what exactly? Well, free the continent from authoritarianism and fascism. As you can see, every country in Africa at this point is democratic, except for this group of 5 up here in sub-Saharan Africa / Saharan Africa. Now that West Africa has flipped into a democratic country, and that they have even further, joined the AN and have become a Security Council member, South Africa feels as if there aren't any roadblocks to pursuing this and flipping these governments. So that is why this military campaign is happening. Let's see how it goes down. So first of all, Lavender Team troops will cross the border into the yellow country unannounced. There is no official declaration of war. This is just straight up a military invasion. They'll quickly move to take over these 2 major cities down here in the south. But something weird to notice is that a majority of the forces right here are defensive forces. They're not offensive forces, meaning that they don't have any kind of strategy to go out and take land. More so, their offensive forces are located over here in this area. And that's because the Lavender Team's objective is to reach the capital city, which they quickly do, and topple the government that is stationed there. This is a liberation campaign after all, and with the help of the rest of South Africa's military alliance, they succeed in taking over the capital city. Any remaining government officials are captured and taken in as prisoners, and they'll also move to take over these 2 major cities over here, chasing down any politicians that try to flee. They will not, however, reach the border of the Orange Team, which they want to try to prevent any kind of escalation with the Orange Team, because as you'll notice on the ideology map, they are too a fascist country, but they're a little bit stronger than these two. In fact, they're one of the stronger countries in Africa, so South Africa doesn't want to mess with them right now. But after successfully toppling the fascist government in the Yellow Team, we see that a new democratic government forms, maybe propped up by the South Africans, but also maybe locally. They declare a new government of this country, and right after that happens to the north, we see that the Blue Team starts sending their troops into the gray country here. Now this country is a very sparsely populated country. Really, only the people living here are in the actual major cities and capital city. Apart from that, there's some people living in this area, but up here, there's nobody. So for the most part, their military will just march across this area of land straight towards the capital city, which they will eventually reach. And just like the country below them, their capital city is taken very quickly. The dictator of this country actually doesn't surrender. He ends his own life, which a lot of the people in this country are surprised about, because he was kind of like a popularist candidate. He presented himself as a strongman. With the military capturing the capital city and now moving towards these other major cities, eventually we have the exact same thing happening in this country that happened down here. And that is that the remaining major cities declare a new government, a new democratic government, and the victory is achieved by South Africa and their military allies, which at this point is actually just themselves and then these guys up here. So with all that being said and done, let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. And this treaty is very simple. They just get new governments. But more specifically, they both get new democratic governments, and of course these will be flawed democracies at first, as most new democratic countries are, but eventually they have the opportunity to make themselves into a solid democratic country, just like South Africa. But apart from their new governments and ideology, they will also both join in on South Africa's economic alliance, and will also additionally join in on South Africa's military alliance. Now, some members of the Assembly of Nations are going to call this imperialism. I mean, America and China have been doing much of the same thing, but South Africa's way of doing it is a little bit different and a little bit more justifiable. These were all authoritarian leaders. They didn't care about their people, and these two countries were very weak, very struggling. So South Africa went in there and they freed the people. They liberated the people and brought democracy to them. Some members in the Assembly of Nations are going to like that, and more specifically, the other democratic countries in Africa feel as if this was a good move, whereas some other countries, like maybe the Mesopotamian countries, are going to still look at this as imperialism. It's just up to you if you think it's imperialism or not. Anyway, for our last discussion involving these two countries, they will also both apply and be granted access into the Assembly of Nations. So that is two new members over here in Africa. Now, speaking of the Assembly of Nations, I do believe it's time for another round of new countries to join. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, this does not mean that these countries are all joining at the exact same time. Anyway, the newest country joining the assembly is none other than the gold team over here in the Horn of Africa. We also finally see the pink team join in. This was a very long time coming, and this is probably one of those countries that joined a few years ago, whereas the gold team probably just joined recently, like within this video. Other countries joining include this teal country over here in Russia/Northern Asia, the Northern Philippine Island country, and finally Norway, who was also another country that has probably been longing to join this for a very long time. They finally get approved, and much like the pink team, they were probably approved a while ago and joined a while ago. We're just now covering it in this video. So the Assembly of Nations has almost reached worldwide capacity. They have members in every continent, and really the only countries that are holding out of this organization for now are the fascist countries. So we have the South American fascist bloc, they haven't joined. There's Red Australia over here, they haven't joined. The one remaining fascist country in Africa, they haven't joined. And then also the communist countries haven't joined either. So like over here in Russia, this communist country hasn't joined, or over here in South America, this red country hasn't joined. Similar with this purple country in Central Asia, and then finally Poland is the only communist member of the Assembly of Nations. So it is popular amongst the democratic countries, very clearly. But now we head over here to Central Asia, where we're once again going to talk about some authoritarian states. Now, since the collapse of the Green Team, this region has been relatively quiet, and that is to the surprise of all of us, including me. But peace cannot last forever, and maybe with the discretion of some foreign funds flowing in and some political propaganda being dropped and just maybe some stirring of the pot, things are going to change in this region very soon. And more specifically, these three authoritarian countries are all going to break out into a war over the stupidest of reasons. They want to control the trade route. No, I'm just kidding. That was like hundreds of years ago. The real reason is that these three leaders, all of them are dictators, authoritarian leaders, are having an egotistical show-off. This guy thinks he's better than this guy, and this guy, and this guy thinks he's better than this guy and that guy, and then this guy thinks he's better than this guy and this guy. They're having an ego war over their leader, and the people of these three nations are all kind of brainwashed into thinking their leader is the best leader in the world. It's very North Korea-like. And think of it this way. It's like three North Koreas going to war because they don't know which Kim Jong-un is better. They want to have a fight over the best Kim Jong-un. That's what this war is. It's incredibly stupid. But also, like I said, there might have been some foreign stirring of the pot happening here. So when all three of these countries declare war on each other, like at the same time in unison because it's that serious, it goes crazy. There are people in the streets who are signing up for the military because they believe that their dictator/leader is superior to the other two nations, and they're going to prove it by invading the other two nations and fully annexing them, killing the other two leaders, and making sure so that there is only one dictator over these three countries. And yeah, so the war starts like this. The Grey Team will first send their troops and military across the border towards the capital city of the Dark Blue Team. At the same time, the Dark Blue country will send their troops across the border into this other blue team right towards their capital city as well. And then what we have happening is this blue team sending their troops down towards this major city of the Dark Blue Team and capturing it. And this is some very brutal fighting. like it is like chaotic fighting. Like they're really killing each other. It's really bad. The AN is like attempting to send in peacekeeping forces to regulate the fighting because it's just so brutal. But obviously these three countries, they aren't in the AN, so they're not accepting any of these troops in. They don't want the AN to get involved. And it's getting to a point where it's like a human rights violation by the amount of people that are dying. Like civilians are like joining the military, like they'll watch the military march through town, they'll go join them and the military will give them a gun, and when they meet the opposing army, there's like no one left in the battlefield. It's just dead bodies everywhere. It's horrible. So the AN is going to be like, all right, even though these guys aren't in the assembly, we're going to have to do something about this because this is bad. Luckily, we just got a new member that joined recently, and that is the pink team, but there's also countries around these three countries that can get involved as well. There's a ton of them, but most notably we have Tibet here, who is a Security Council member. In matters like this, when human rights violations are happening, the assembly votes. First, the General Assembly goes and they vote in favor of intervening in this conflict, and then the Security Council votes and they also vote in favor of intervening in this conflict. So the Security Council will go ahead and probe some countries to join the war. Most notably, Tibet joins, as well as the gold team and the pink team. And when these three outside countries get involved, well, the authoritarians aren't too sure what to do with themselves because the ego war is over and now their countries are facing doom. There will be no winner because, well, the assembly is going to win. The pink team's forces will swiftly move into the gray country and capture the capital city, in which they arrest the dictator of this country. He is obviously going to be tried for crimes against humanity. As for Tibet, they will also move into this country and take over their capital city. Same thing happens with this dictator. And then finally, the gold team sends its army in as well, and much of the same happens here, with this dictator also being captured. Now, at the end of the day, all three of these assembly nations will do their job. They'll move into all of these countries and eventually take all of them over, but there is just one slight issue, and that is that these three countries have been so ravaged and so damaged by the war that there is no society here anymore. It does not function. There's not enough people for the society to function. Every government official is gone, and like there was also maybe some ethnic cleansing going on along the way. So when the military was marching through the territory, they saw a civilian village or a settlement and they took flamethrowers to it. So there's just a ton of displacement, a ton of just horrible stuff. And the assembly will eventually make the decision to have these territories just simply annexed into other countries. It's something that a lot of assembly members don't like. They didn't think that this should happen, but a majority does rule, and the majority said that this is the outcome that's going to happen. The Security Council voted in favor, and like I just said, the assembly also voted in favor. So let's go ahead and see what happens to these three countries and how exactly they're divided up. And looking at this treaty here, we can see the fate of these three authoritarian countries. Now, I do want to go ahead and say that I accidentally colored in the gray country's northern half, so we can't see what the old borders look like, but just for reference, they look something like this beforehand, so you can kind of see it went like that. The pink team will annex the northern half, and then the southern half will be given over here to this yellow country in Central Asia. As for the dark blue team here, they will be split between the pink team and Tibet, so the pink team will get that, and then we have Tibet getting this. And then finally, as for this other dark blue country over here, the pink team will be getting this, and then we have the cyan country getting this. Now, why did countries that weren't involved in this war get land? Well, that's simple, because they are in the Assembly of Nations. And like I said, they had to divide up the territory, and obviously the gold team can't get any territory because that would create border war. And at the same time, we also saw that even though the yellow country over here and the teal country up here weren't directly involved in the war, they were also sending volunteers in. So therefore, they are given land by the Assembly of Nations. It's not really like a, you did this much work, so you get this much land. It's more so of a, let's just divide up the land where we think it best goes. And to an extent, it also aligns kind of with the religion map over here. So like this country that the teal team just annexed, they share a similar culture / religion with this country anyway. In fact, this is a very unique culture / religion over here. It does stem from the blue one. So at the end of the day, you know, it's relatively the same religion / culture, but this branch is different, and therefore it makes more sense for this country to be a part of this one and these countries to be a part of the blue one. Anyway, with that now being all said and done, this is our updated map of Central Asia, and as you can see, there are now a lot fewer countries in the world. This era has been full of countries disappearing from the map, and while a lot of cases it was imperialism, there were also just a ton of extraneous circumstances that led to a bunch of countries either collapsing or being divided up like we just saw in Central Asia. Now, while this era has been full of events and wars and other kind of events like the just general growth of the Assembly of Nations, the growth of influence of the top powers, and the growth of the economies of the top powers as well, all good things must eventually come to an end. At the end of the previous episode, I mentioned that there was a secret mission that was going to be taking place, and 2 countries were involved in said secret mission. Those missions have been ongoing for the events of this entire video, and it's time to break down exactly what happened. So let's make our way to the third strongest country in the world. Let's make our way to India. Recently, a cargo ship passed through the Suez Canal and made its way all the way down here through the Red Sea, out into the Gulf of Aden and into the Indian Ocean. This cargo ship eventually made its way all the way over here to a specific port in India, one that was right outside the capital city of this country. Once the cargo ship docked, it was unloaded and a specific container was put on a train. Now this isn't just any ordinary train, this is a military train by the Indian military, and it's transporting some interesting technology. Now where did this technology come from? Well, it came from America. This was a direct shipment from America to its ally of India, and this train will make its way across the country, now entering into the recently annexed territory of Bangladesh and stopping in this major city. The train is carrying 10 very large containers, each of them containing a non-nuclear high-radius bomb. You see, with all of the money that America has been getting and all of the influence they have been getting, their science team has been very hard at work developing a replacement for nuclear bombs. And thus we have the creation of the non-nuclear high-radius bomb, or put short, the NNHRB. This is secret military technology that only America has, and they've just exported it to one of their allies, this time being India. But the thing is, though, while this mission and operation of sending these bombs to India was a secret mission at that, some other country found out, and some other country is not too happy about it. A very wealthy and very influential man in China told his government about the existence of the non-nuclear high-radius bombs. And when the government found out about America's secret weapon and how it was being transported to India, China made a decision that was based on saving their country and stopping escalation of tensions. China decided that they would send out a special force group to go ahead and go into Indian territory and to destroy the train and disarm the bombs, rendering them useless and maybe even taking some of the technology and trying to reverse engineer it and figure out how these bombs are made and figure out if China can make some of their own to counter America's stock that they have built. So while these bombs are stationed over here in this major city, Chinese special forces will cross the border in secrecy and make their way to where the train is located. Eventually, though, and off schedule, the train will leave the major city and begin making its way up north towards the Chinese border. Quickly, Chinese special forces will move to intercept the train, and while it's going over a bridge, the bridge is blown up. The result of this, of course, is the train falling off the tracks and blowing up partly, but also the cargo is secured and rendered useless. All 10 of the bombs on the train are quickly disarmed by Chinese scientists and technicians, but it won't be long before they're caught, because the Indian military, of course, was in constant pursuit of the train and also watching it as it was on its mission. Now, the Chinese covert ops knew this would be the case, and that's why they were trying to work with speed. So after disarming the bombs and maybe taking a few pictures and sending it back home, they'll quickly try to make their exit out of India, hoping to not get caught by Indian special forces. But bad news awaits them at the border, because that's exactly what happens as they are stopped, shot, and killed. The report of the incident and the report of the loss of the bombs quickly reaches over here to India's capital city, and from there a transmission is sent over to America's capital city, and when America finds out that its special technology was destroyed by Chinese special forces in allied territory, well, let's just say the response isn't going to be so pretty. All members of the 3-Point Star Alliance will meet over here in the capital of Norway, and here they will discuss the response to what China has just done. On paper, it's extremely simple. China sent special military forces into Indian territory, destroyed Indian military equipment, and when they were confronted by Indian special forces, they opened fire. Of course, India quickly neutralized the special forces. The Chinese special forces were overwhelmed extremely quickly, but India still suffered some casualties. So what we have happening once again is Chinese forces in Indian territory blowing up Indian infrastructure, destroying American military technology, and also killing Indian military personnel. The leaders of this 3-Point Star Alliance will convene, but a breaking news story is heard from across the world, because over here in China, American operatives were just found in the capital city of China. As it turns out, while China was carrying out their secret mission in India, America was also carrying out a secret mission in China. And while I can tell you why China was doing their secret mission, I cannot tell you what America's secret mission is, and that's because it's not public information. You see, when the American operatives were found, they all took cyanide pills and they all died. No information was leaked by these operatives, and no information was given back to the American government. There was a system in place to where if the operatives didn't respond within an hour, then the American government had to go ahead and assume that they were dead, and that in this case is exactly what happened. It's pretty safe to assume that these guys are American operatives, so the Chinese government will go ahead and press America about this, saying, hey, Why did you have operatives in our country? And while America and China are both yelling at each other trying to figure out what exactly is going on, the rich elite of both America and China are also feuding. And when the elites are fighting, things get a little bit out of hand. Quickly, both countries begin to pull investments out of each other, which hurts both of their economies and thus the world economy as well. Then the government begins to take action, as both countries quickly withdraw diplomats from each other. And a few days later, in the capital city of Norway, a decision will be made. In response to China entering in and infringing on Indian territory and killing Indian military personnel, and also destroying American technology, the Three-Point Star Alliance will be declaring war on China. And in response to this, the Triangle Alliance will be declaring war on the Three-Point Star Alliance, saying that American operatives in Chinese territory was against international law and impeded on the sovereignty of China, and therefore it warrants military reaction. While the Assembly of Nations strived to stop global war amongst its members, it failed to recognize and stop such an occurrence from taking place amongst its Security Council members. The top powers in the world will not even follow the own order that they established, and the Assembly of Nations has failed its only purpose. Sure, it wants to also bring together countries and build an international community, but at the end of the day, the great powers made the Assembly to stop global war. Yet here we find ourselves in World War V, the War of the Elites. America and India will be facing off against China and Russia, but that's not all. Because over the course of the last 10 episodes and beyond that, America and China have been building their influence and have been building up on allies. While on the surface level it may appear that America and China only have a limited number of allies, that's simply not true, because other countries were waiting in the dark, waiting for the opportunity to help out the country that helped them out. In Europe, multiple Western European countries will quickly join the Three-Point Star Alliance on the side of America. In South Asia, we see Persia, Southern India, and Vietnam join the Three-Point Star Alliance. In East Asia, we see Japan join the Three-Point Star Alliance. In North Africa, we see West Africa, the Mediterranean country, and Libya join the Three-Point Star Alliance. But that's not all, because we see Australia join in on China's alliance. The Orange Country joins the Triangle Alliance. California joins the Triangle Alliance. And the most shocking occurrence of all is the South American fascist bloc joining the Triangle Alliance. Decades of influence building, greed, and power have led us to this very moment, where the second strongest and the first strongest countries in the world, both 1A and 1B respectively, will be duking it out. The dance between America and China has reached its fiery conclusion, and I once again want to welcome you guys to World War V, the War of the Elites. The Three-Point Star Alliance and the Triangle Alliance will be duking out for multiple episodes coming up, as the New World Order comes crumbling down within itself. The non-participating Assembly of Nation members will convene with each other, but what can you really do when all of the strong countries are fighting amongst each other? As this war goes on, more and more countries will choose sides, making it the largest conflict in WICSO history. And that's gonna do it for today's episode. So if you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hello once again to everyone in the live chat. This video should be being premiered, and if it isn't, then that's probably not good. I mean, something happened to me. But yeah, World War V is here, and I hope you guys are excited. Let me know what you think in both the live chat and the comments below. Once again, make sure to show some support as we're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers. Leaving a like and subscribing if you're new helps out a ton. And I will see you all in the next episode, the beginning of the War of the Elites. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes Serminator, Static FN, Jazzy Jerboa, Turn Mapping, CTG on YT, Omega the YouTuber, Vista Napper, Garbage Trucks, Xander Pro, WICSO, 73553, Gamer, RS, Australian Geo Mapping, Augusto, Norwegian, Gail Martinez, Freezioid, Laser Taze, Pablo Sigma Cat, Toad 45, Death Strider X, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.